Hey everybody, welcome to this new little discussion type video. Today we're going to be talking about the Unreal Engine 5. We just got that video coming out the other day, I believe. And it's going to be me and Adolph just kind of discussing and going over what we think about it. And probably, because I have my smart man tech guy here, Adolph, probably kind of give us a little bit more insight as to like what it all means and everything. So, with that being said... Adolph, welcome.
Thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. I'm excited to talk about this. I'm looking forward to it. I was really pumped by the demo. So,
first initial reactions going off of it, like, I want to hear, like, so I just rewatched the Unreal 4 tech demo from, how long ago, and I sat there and I went, like, my first initial reaction was like, wow, like, I can only think of a few games that look like this today for how long ago that came out. What are your takeaways from Unreal Engine 5? Like, what did you get from it that you think is going to just kind of, like, push us more into the future?
So a big thing for me is that it'll call out from the video is the lumen lighting. So I think the lumen lighting with the ability to have the movement of light be so natural. To what we would see outside, and especially in that scene where we've got the cave, and the light can pan across the cave, and you can see the shadows moving and everything. We have good shadows now with like Unreal Engine 4, but the difference is if you turn up those settings on anything, and even you look at a lot of modern games, when you start to get into bigger games, they have a hard time actually doing realistic shadows like that. And the nice thing about, I think, Unreal Engine 5 is going to be is with the lumen lighting aspect, it's going to take a lot of that built into the game engine by itself. There's not going to have to be a bunch of additional work that's going to be done to it, and it's going to be an easy thing to tune. So one of the things I'm excited to see is how much game developers are going to take advantage of something like Lumen to provide new intensity to environmental aspects. Right? So music has always been a big one, but lighting can either be a spot-on thing or be really missing in some scenarios. And I think you know what I mean when I say some games almost come off too dark. Like
yes, a lot of games do, and you bring up a good point about the way that lighting works. And I lost my train of thought just then and there.
Oh boy.
Well, no. What I was gonna get at is like the way that lighting works. Like, so moving in, like not just talking about Unreal, but like ray tracing.
Yes,
right? That's the big. I mean, it's not new necessarily, but it's kind of becoming like a newer thing for every game.
We're getting hardware that can support it efficiently now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, like, with ray tracing coming out, like, Control came out with it last year, and I mean, like, I saw the side-by-side screenshots between, like, my PS4 Pro version of the game and then just a pretty good PC with ray tracing. And I went, Jesus criminy. Like... it's amazing how different lighting can just change that idea and like the detail that you can see. One thing I did notice watching this Unreal demo was you don't see, and I hope I'm using this term correctly because I get these mixed up a lot, but I didn't see a lot of anti-aliasing. I think that's the right term, where you get close to something and you can see a lot of
polygons, more or less. You can see the triangles that they were talking about inside the video. You can start to see the pointed edges and versus the smoothness and stuff like that.
Assassin's Creed has a lot of that, and there's a reason why they have a lot of that, and that's because of the way that they're loading their world.
Correct.
As you're turning the camera, it's making it disappear because it's all just, it's a facade, right? Like, it's not completely loaded.
Right.
It's a great way, and like that's what, and from listening to what they were saying about Unreal, the idea of them basically going, like, you won't need to do that.
That's not going to be necessary anymore because of the way they've been able to build into the game engine, the amount of triangles it can purely support. Just so, like, and they really, if you didn't notice, they focused a lot on triangles, right? They talked about these statues and how many billions of triangles there are inside of this thing to create these statues. And they have, like, 160, I got that number way wrong, but 160 plus of these statues, exact replicas.
It was 500, I believe, is what they said.
And you saw no glitchiness. You saw no weird stuff going on with, like, some of the back ones where they might have rendered them down to make it the load on the actual GPU and on the RAM a little bit softer. It feels like what they were able to do is take advantage of the modern hardware in a lot more efficient manner to a point where if you're not familiar with this stuff, things like CUDA cores and things like our GRAM that sits on your GPUs, they're actually able to utilize a lot of that now and store a lot of this data internally while being able to being able to buff up the game engine a lot to a point where we could get our eyes super close and it's going to look unbelievably realistic. And that's
something
the thing
that I do. I do that so often when I play a video game. Like, one of my first things that I ever do, and I don't do it as much anymore just because I understand a lot more, but I'd always go next to a plant or a tree, and I would turn the cameras close, and I would like look at that texture and be like, this is good graphical quality.
Yeah.
Here's my real question, right? So, like, this is the first time. Now, I've never been too much into watching tech demos. I'm playing with shit on my desk.
That's fine. Don't worry.
Now, they talked a lot about triangles, okay? And this is the first time when it's come to tech talk like this that I've heard the word triangles. It was always polygons. Polygons. What is the difference between... I mean, they mentioned no polygon limit, but what's the difference between a triangle and a polygon?
Polygons are built up of 100 little triangles. They're built up of tiny little ones. So what they're doing is they're individualizing. They were calling out the individual triangles that they go into things. Because it's those hundreds of triangles that build your polygons that create your thing. So, like, think old Tomb Raider. Okay? And I'm going to point out how a Lara Croft model used to look compared to if you go look at a Shadow of the Tomb Raider and you look at how her model looks now. So you go old PlayStation Tomb Raider to new Tomb Raider nowadays. And there's a huge difference in the design factor. It's because they've been able to smooth out and make those triangles smaller. And so the polygons have been able to get a lot smaller and be able to merge those things into them. And they're focusing on the triangles because that's the count that's going to matter for the graphics processor and for the computer itself. Whatever device that is running it. Sorry, I'm going to call them computers because the PlayStation is a computer. It's a computer with a different name. So it's how they can spread across that load that's going to be probably the most impressive thing. And that's really what I took away from it was they've buffed everything up significantly from what Unreal Engine 4 was. We've seen a huge jump in hardware from when Unreal Engine 4 came out to what Unreal Engine 5 is capable of. It just in that demo alone is showing that the software is starting to actually catch up to what hardware is capable of handling at this point. There's always a discrepancy between those two, software and hardware. One will get ahead of the other one will get ahead of the other one, and they very rarely come to a symbiotic relationship of where they can be on a level playing field with each other. So
right, and I mean, we're finally at a point where, like, I mean, I think the thing that blew me away the most and was definitely just the idea that this was running. This is the first time we've actually seen, you could say, legit gameplay, because this was a fully built demo that was going to be played at GDC.
I want to play that game.
I do too. Like, I want this game now.
Right.
And I mean, it took, I think from what I read, it took them 30 hours to make it.
Yep.
Which is nuts when you think, like, 30 hours
for 9 minutes of gameplay demo.
Holy shit. But this was running off of a PS5.
Yes.
Like, they were straight up like, this is PS5. And the fact that we're getting something like that, a PS5. I mean, we haven't seen anything. We've only seen a leaked video of Spider-Man running its load screens going like that as fast as possible on the PS5. So the fact is that was there. That, you know, and I'm not saying PlayStation better than Xbox or PC or anything like that.
It was the demo platform. It's exciting to see what consoles are going to be capable of now, right?
You know, yes, and what was it? The I can't remember the guy's name. It's going to slip my mind, but he was talking after the fact of saying that, like, the SSD that they have the custom built SSD that they have built now is going to change the game for PCs.
Yes.
Because they say that it is so, and it's not just the fact that it's more powerful or this or that. There's the way that they built it and it runs is going to change the way everything else is put together, and that excites me. And it's interesting to hear that.
It piqued my
especially
interest.
Coming from Epic.
Yeah, and it piqued my interest quite a bit, being just the PC hardware geek that I am. In particular, hard drives have made a massive jump with PCIe 4 and NVMe drives in the last couple of years. And I mean, PCIe 4 is only about a year or two old at this point in time. And I mean, we're talking 64 gig per second transfer rates. I won't get too far into tech here on this, but, like, you start looking at, like, Intel Optane drives, for example. To give you an idea, you can go buy a 320 gig Intel Optane drive. Will cost you right around $800. It'll be the fastest loading hard drive you ever had for things like file transfer. I'm really interested to see what they've done with this, because solid states have a lot of room to grow technically in that technology realm, or in that development area. SSDs are relatively young and new still, and so I'm excited for that, because if they can change the game of SSDs and how we can load things and how it will work across the board, it's going to be an exciting time frame. Storage will no longer be the boring, I guess I got to go buy a new hard drive, right? It'll be, oh my God, I'm excited for this because I'm going to see something out of it. Like, you know,
yeah, right? But no, I mean, it comes down to the idea that, like, I mean, this happens not every single time because PCs are always ahead of the game for a lot of things.
That's not fair, though. That's not a fair comparison.
Well, and the only reason, and the biggest reason I say that is when a new system comes out, most of the time for a very short amount of time. Yep. Anyway, it's like, here's how powerful it is, and then everybody else gets the tech and all that, and then boom. But that's, I mean, we're not going into that. When it comes to we were talking about the Unreal 5 tech demo, and we're going off on a tangent. Well, not really, but.
What I'm excited for is to see that the PS5 is capable of running an engine like this at full load.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So,
I mean,
and then be able to doing things like demo the legitimate visualization, the lighting, and the audio that comes with Unreal Engine 5.
The audio was a big one that it was very cool. Like
the bats leaving the cave.
I listen to that type of stuff all the time. I recently started mostly playing every video game with headphones on. Like, I have a really nice soundbar with surround sound speakers upstairs. But, I mean, we have the exact same headphones.
We do?
But, sound is such a big part of everything I listen to. And, like, even just, like, playing Assassin's Creed recently and then, like, listening to this, I came down here and I watched it on my monitor because I wanted to see it as high as resolution as I could. And to listen to the way that audio went, it's like, I got to get this in my hands because the thing that I'm taking away from this, and I hope that a lot of people are, is what developers are going to be able to do with this. And how much, and from an outside perspective on it, it sounds like it's going to be so much easier for them.
I would agree. It feels like the engine comes with a lot more built in right away, which is going to be a great platform for even young indie developers to work with and break things off of, and the AAA platforms that like to use these types of engines, for example, right? We do have a couple AAA companies that do like to build their own engines, and we've seen examples of that. Sony's a prime example of that, although they've kind of thrown that away in the last couple of years. It is exciting to see how easy it will be, and what the software devs get to do is they actually get to use their creativity now. And then they have to use the tool versus making the tool do new things. They get to use the tool in the way it's designed. Right? And there'll obviously be some shortcomings that we do not know of yet, as this was just a tech demo. Until we get it in somebody's hands who's going to build that next massive world like Assassin's Creed with this, that's where we'll start to see the shortcomings. And that's, not to jump too far ahead of us, I'm excited for this, but that's always what I'm also looking forward to, is where are the shortcomings? There's always a good and a bad to things, and it depends on what the bads are. We knew where a lot of bads were with Unreal Engine 4. I think a lot of that's been fixed up with Unreal Engine 5. I don't think we're going to have the massive world issues anymore, and I think a lot of that comes down to is, again, they can utilize the new hardware that's being put into these consoles and the new hardware that's coming out on these PCs nowadays a lot more efficiently, and we can load things like that a lot better. The thing that honestly, my biggest worry, what's the size? What's the storage size of one of these going to be?
That's a big thing that I've seen a lot of people talking about on Twitter and Facebook and all of that is, and a lot of the jokes like, oh, and a 2 terabyte, download. And I mean, it's a
legitimate concern. It's a legitimate concern.
Because everything has to be, and not every game has been doing that. You've seen a lot of toning down when it's come to game worlds, and I'd say the past 2 years now.
Probably. I agree with that.
Just because of the fact that a lot of people is like, and I hate to keep going back to this one, but like Assassin's Creed, a lot of people, even who love the game, myself included, just seem to go, Odyssey's too big. It's just too big. And you know what? I love that game. I've put 95 plus hours into that game, and I love every second of it, but it's a little too big. And, when you get games that come out like Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is a 100 gig download, and it's because they decided
for the first episode.
Yep, which was also built in Unreal 4, mind you. They built individual assets for all of that, and it's like, I'm with you. What's the storage going to be? Because the fact is that we know that even this super amazing hard drive, which Sony hasn't announced anything about it yet, what do we get right away?
What's your capacity?
Just a terabyte? I mean, at that point, you can barely load any games on that, and that's what a lot of people have a problem with. It's like, I love these big games. I want them. I love to see what they can do, but, not everybody can afford to go expand the hard drive or get an external or something like that, and, that's
where I'm hoping we see these new consoles come out with, I'm being optimistic with 4 to 6 terabyte drives built into them. That's what I would love to see.
That would be insane.
Mainly, I mean, like I have a new 6 terabyte drive in this computer I'm on right now. I've got a 1 terabyte NVMe SSD. I've got another 1 terabyte SSD in there. I've got storage because a lot of the games I have average anywhere between 80 to 120 gigs. Right? And you'll blow through hard drive space if you want to keep any collection of them on there. Getting back real quick to Unreal Engine 5, though, overall, the thing I'm probably most excited for here is the combination of all 3 things that they wanted to show off. Kind of like we were hitting on in the beginning. So, like, just starting Assassin's Creed Odyssey, just for a moment here, because I just finished the first island literally about 30 minutes ago. I just finished the intro. One of the things I noticed right away, though, is I love to sneak. I'm a sneaky guy. Going into some of these dark rooms, it's so freaking dark.
It's too dark.
And my audio cuts out on me, or I lose the audio from the outside world, which wouldn't happen in a normal environment. If with an open door, it would be funneled into me a little bit more unless the door was closed. What I'm excited to see is this light creep in with audio that is being able to change while I have this ability to see this defined stuff in low and high light definition. It's going to be interesting to see what they can put together with a lot of this and what they want to do with a lot of the sounds. The storytelling is something that I feel like has been somewhat missing from games a little bit. It's been an off and on thing. I feel like a lot of game developers have relied a lot on graphics, and I feel like this allows them to bring back a lot of the elements of storytelling that might have been missing or harder to do. Where they can do the cave audios, or the bugs walking around with the flashlight and you hear the skitter of the bugs moving as the flashlight's following them.
They have an opportunity to make it so that every area you go into, as graphically as they've been wanting to make it in the past, feels and looks and sounds different.
You imagine a Resident Evil with Unreal Engine 5?
Holy fuck. I mean, the RE engine that they have right now is still one of the
best, hands down. Engines. It's amazing.
But to be honest, no. I can't imagine.
I'd have to play with the lights on, and I would have to play between the time of 9 a.m. and 12 p.m., because I couldn't do it at night because I would be scared. I would legitimately be so scared. I don't know if I could handle it myself.
I'm with you on that one, man. But I mean, to see some of these games, and I think and we'll wrap this up here really quick, so this isn't too long. But the thing that I'm going to take away from this that I love to hear was, I think it was towards the end when they were just discussing, or maybe it was after the video, is they said how, like, basically Unreal is open for every platform.
It's open, yeah.
Like, which is really nice, because they've had to interpret that type of stuff, and instead of making indie devs or even AAA or anybody to be able to be like, yeah, we want to bring it to PC, but it's a pain in the ass. Well, guess what? Now it sounds like it's a click of a fucking button, and you got it. And it's
Universal.
like that's incredible to me, because the idea of, like, a lot of indie developers who, if you've seen a lot of, like, indie horror game or any indie game, that they're able to put these types of things out on Unreal 4. I mean, these guys go nuts with these graphics. I can't wait to see indie devs get their hands on this and to see what they are able to put out and how beautiful and everything it sounds like. You're going to seem like you're playing a first-party title that was made in somebody's mom's basement over the past 6 months, and you're going to go, what?
This is what I want gaming to go back to. This is exactly what I wanted to go back to.
And it's so exciting to see something like that, and that is my biggest takeaway from it, because it's going to open up even more for people to get their stuff out there, and instead of it just being on things like Steam or Itch.io or Game Jolt, you're going to see these games on the Switch. You're going to see them on the PlayStation 4, the 5, the Xbox One, the Series X, all of that, because they're going to be like, give me this game. Let me play it anywhere, because we can just put it there, and it doesn't cost you anything. It doesn't cost me anything.
Nope. And it's anybody, like you hit on, anybody in their basement can pick this up and make the game of their dreams. And that's one of the coolest things. It offers a lot. All right. It offers a lot for what it is. It's a huge advancement in what it is. And the fact that it's not limited to anybody is probably one of the best things we've seen come from one of these engines in a long time. Yes.
100%. I completely agree with you, Adolph. And we could keep going on and on about this, and probably go off of many other tangents. But this is just going to be a quick discussion video, because we're excited to see. I mean, the future of gaming, besides everything that's been going on recently with the world, and we'll probably see the effects of it in this next year when it comes to games not releasing when they should.
Just delays across the board, which has got to be. People have to be understanding of that.
And I think a lot of people
have to be understanding of this right now. So,
and I want everybody to stay safe out there. I want this to be, we're all here to have fun and enjoy it, and this is something to look forward to. And I think it was the right time to put something like this out, to kind of give everybody an idea, like, we're going to get some really good shit here soon.
And we're not stopping. We're not giving up. Things might be tough, but we're still working. We're still progressing. We're still making this movement forward, just maybe at a slower pace right now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Agreed with everything you said, so I love it.
Well, Adolph, thank you for joining me again on this. You know, we'll try to do some more stuff like this. We'll try to, you know, a lot of words you use I did not understand one bit, but I'm sure I'm gonna follow this back and I'm gonna like Google everything.
We can talk anytime off camera, but I love this. Thank you for bringing me back. It was a lot of fun to do this. I look forward to do this with you again later. So
absolutely, and everybody, if you like this video, please let us know down in the comments below. Hit that like button and please give it.
I'll have more on my walls next time.
Yeah, give us a subscribe if you like this. If you want to hear Adolph talk tech, this motherfucker could go off. So let's do it.
Let's have some fun.
Anyway, we'll see you next time, guys.
Later.
Bye.